Guys, we got some preseason college football 2023 game lines. These are the first official game lines I have seen for the 2023 season, and I'm just going to react to all of the ones that I believe this is FanDuel. They have all of these right now, so we're going to react to them. Navy at Notre Dame, which is the Week 0 game in Dublin, Ireland. They've got Notre Dame minus 17.5. You know what? I like Navy plus the 17.5 in that one. You know, first game with Sam Hartman, Notre Dame looking to have an even better season. Last year it was kind of ruined by that loss to Stanford. They've got the massive Week 3 game at home against Ohio State. We'll see. But that is the Week 0 game, the neutral site one. And Notre Dame an early big-time favorite. Going to Week 1, Colorado at TCU. TCU listed minus 17.5. I like Colorado in that one, plus the 17.5. TCU loses a ton. They lose their best receiver, the quarterbacks, and also their number one running back. So I think Colorado can at least keep it close. I understand it's kind of polarizing with them getting a completely new roster. You know, they're going to have a situation where there's going to be some chemistry problems early on, and they are on the road. It is kind of remarkable how, you know, Deion Sanders comes there and they're only 17-point underdogs. If this was last year, like last year's Colorado team, TCU would be 38-point favorites in this game at home. Moving, we've got another Week 1 game, South Carolina, North Carolina, neutral site game taking place at the Panthers Stadium, and it is basically a pick'em. You've got North Carolina minus 1.5. Battle of the returning quarterbacks in this one, with Spencer Rattler taking on Drake May. North Carolina last year started off great, kind of struggled towards the end. I like South Carolina to win this game outright, although it's hard to bet on South Carolina. They're extremely inconsistent. They had those two great wins towards the end of last season and then had a good bowl showing against Notre Dame. And then this is the Sunday night game, and this could be a top 10 matchup. LSU and Florida State. Florida State minus 1. Basically a pick 'em. I love Florida State next year. So I think they'll win this game. Even though LSU is really talented, Harold Perkins, you know, Jane Daniels is back. They've got you know, weapons and things like that. But Florida State just has so much returning. Next year is make or break. They've got to, at the minimum, make a New Year's Six bowl. But it's kind of almost like, you know, make the playoffs for Florida State with what they return and some of the improbable players that they actually got to return, like Jared Verse, who probably would have been a first-round pick. Moving to, this is also Week 2. This is the non-conference home-and-home. Texas at Alabama. So Bama minus 8.5. Alabama loses a ton. I understand they've got a really talented roster and all that, but they do lose a lot. Texas loses Bijan Robinson, but outside of that, they return basically everyone. They've got Quinn Ewers back. Now he's got a year of experience under his belt, along with Xavier Worthy. I would be tempted to look at Texas plus the 8.5, but I mean, obviously, guys, we're not making any sort of bets right now or anything like that. There's just no point. There's no point in tying up your money this far out. Like, why would I put a $100 bet on something when you could, if you really love betting that much, just bet on March Madness, you know? So the next game, Nebraska at Colorado. Nebraska listed as 7-point favorites on the road at Colorado. I would probably like Colorado in that one, but this is a lot of projection. Again, Colorado has a completely new roster. They've gotten like 25 players from the portal. You know, Nebraska returns Casey Thompson, so that's a very veteran presence, and we'll see maybe a little, you know, rejuvenation with their current coaching situation, but we will see. Texas A&M at Miami, so this is the return game of the home and home, and you've got Texas A&M minus the 4.5. You know, Miami has a unique quarterback situation. I think Jake Garcia entered the portal, so Tyler Van Dyke should be back. But what a letdown of a season Tyler Van Dyke had last year. And you've got A&M coming in. They're going to be pissed off. They're really talented. They've got a young quarterback. You know, I don't know. I think A&M's going to win this game. But minus 4.5. I don't know if they'll cover that. You've got the rivalry game, Iowa at Iowa State. I love Iowa to win this game and cover. To me, with Cade McNamara, with their current situation, it just feels like Iowa maybe once every 3 years has a really good season, and that next year I'm feeling it. I'm feeling Iowa maybe 9 wins next year. I haven't looked at their schedule, but again, it's like once every 3 years they're randomly popping up inside the top 10 when we all know Iowa's not going to do a thing when it comes to contending for like beating Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan, but they can still win some games sometimes. Next, this is a week 3 matchup, Tennessee at Florida. So this is an SEC matchup with Tennessee minus the 6.5 with Joe Milton taking on Graham Mertz maybe. I know he transferred there from Wisconsin, but it's far too out to predict something like that. Tennessee is going to be a team that they're like one of the big teams to watch next year. Can they continue and prove that they're not a one-year wonder with Joe Milton? Very, very intriguing team. Washington at Michigan State, week 3. Big 10 versus Pac-12. Washington's going to be really good next year. They have 2 really good pass rushers. They have 2 really good receivers. They return the number 1 passer in all of college football. They could be a top 10 team. That's a tough game for Michigan State. 10.5-point underdogs at home in that non-conference game. Pittsburgh at West Virginia. Pick'em game. Should be a fun one there. You've got, I was going to say JT Daniels, but now JT Daniels is on Rice. JT Daniels is on his 7th team. You know what? I do think JT Daniels might have 2 years of eligibility left. Imagine if he leaves Rice and then goes to another team. That would be like his 6th team. Then you've got Ohio State at Notre Dame. The Buckeyes, very strong 8.5-point favorites on the road. A good number there for Ohio State. But yeah, I would probably, my initial reaction with just the way Ohio State has played some of these early season non-conference games under Ryan Day, we've seen Ohio State last year struggle with Notre Dame. When Notre Dame couldn't even pass the ball, the Buckeyes couldn't cover the 17-point spread. That was a top 5 matchup. Ohio State loses outright against Oregon at home as 14-point favorites the year before, and now Ohio State breaking in a new quarterback, probably Kyle McCord, 8.5 on the road against the team, hostile environment. That is a tough ask. That's like a statement game for Ryan Day. You're more talented than Notre Dame. You need to go out there and throttle them and win this game like 42-24, but I don't know if I can trust Ryan Day at this point to pull something like that off. Next, you have Florida State at Clemson. Clemson, the 3-point home favorite. So just a standard, basically a pick'em game with Florida State and Clemson. You've got, Cade Klubnik, the young quarterback, Will Shipley, the running back. Clemson, I think, will rebound. That'll be a huge game, man. That 100%, I can guarantee you 7:30 ABC. Guaranteed that game. 7:30 ABC. Then you've got Texas, Oklahoma. The neutral site game with Texas 5-point favorites. Well, actually, I don't know yet because I do like Texas next year too, but I think Oklahoma's going to have a great rebound next year. To me, that's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be a 3-point game one way or the other. USC at Notre Dame. USC listed as 3-point road favorites. Give me Notre Dame +3 right now. +3. Notre Dame wins that game outright against USC. USC still has Alex Grinch. They really didn't do enough in terms of the portal. I know they got a few defensive players. They need the former number 1 overall player, Corey Foreman, to step up this year. He's a junior now, I believe. We'll see if he can step up, but I don't trust that USC defense. I think Notre Dame gets revenge after losing last year and Caleb Williams having the Heisman run against them. Notre Dame gets revenge. Sam Hartman, a good defense at home, and they win that rivalry game. Penn State at Ohio State. The Buckeyes listed -8. Oh my God, give me Penn State +8. Penn State plays Ohio State well every single year, and now they are absolutely loaded. But it's so important that Ryan Day wins this game because after this year, Penn State's only going to get better because they're still going to have all their young nucleus, and they're all going to be juniors, and Ohio State's going to have to go into the whiteout. So Ohio State needs to win this game. but I think it's going to be very, very close, and the Buckeyes get it done. And, maybe you see a Heisman moment from Marvin Harrison Jr., the superstar. Next, we've got the rivalry game, Michigan State, and Michigan heavy 15-point favorites on the road. Yeah, that's, that seems like a lot, but Michigan State does well in the portal. They do. So we'll have to see with something like this. Michigan State needs to have a rebound year, at least win, maybe win 7-8 games. We'll have to see. But Mel Tucker, he got that massive contract. This is a very important game that he at least keeps this game competitive against an in-state rival. Georgia and Florida, the neutral site, the world's biggest cocktail party, and Georgia, 17.5-point favorites. I would take Georgia to cover that, even with breaking in a new quarterback. It always seems like Georgia covers this game, and it ends up being like 38-14 or something like that. I just don't trust Florida. But I do feel bad for Florida. I mean, they developed Anthony Richardson, and it's like, okay, he's not even done developing. He's still making mistakes. But it doesn't even matter. He's going to the NFL. So it's like, what? So, I mean, you just get nothing out of it. You don't even get a good season out of Anthony Richardson. Next, you have LSU at Alabama. That's always a great rivalry. Yeah, give me LSU plus 8.5 in that game. Wow. I think that'd be a close game. LSU is going to be really good next year. But Bama will probably win, but it'll be close. Michigan at Penn State plus 1.5. I think Penn State gets it done at home. I'm calling it right now. Penn State beats Michigan in the whiteout at home in a crazy game there. Kansas State at Kansas, a rivalry game. Kansas State minus 3.5. Kansas State loses a lot. Kansas had a very, very breakthrough season by their standards last year. That'll be a close game, higher scoring. Georgia at Tennessee. You've got Georgia minus the 7.5. It's hard to predict something like that with the new quarterbacks at play. Georgia, Tennessee, I don't know. I'd probably take I was going to say I'd take Tennessee plus the 7.5, but I don't know anymore. Next, you have Ohio State. Oh, this is the last game. It is Ohio State at Michigan, and the Buckeyes coming in plus 1. So a little bit better than I thought. I thought Ohio State was going to be plus 3 in this game. It's almost like a pick'em game, and we know this game's going to be absolutely huge for both of these programs, especially Ryan Day. If he loses this game, that's real bad. That's 3 straight losses to Michigan. It is on the road. You've got a Michigan team that's done such a great job with their, NIL program, getting Blake Corum back. Now you've got Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum, and J.J. McCarthy all returning. That's why Michigan's going to be a preseason top 5 team. That's why they're the 1-point favorite over Ohio State. Also, Ohio State, there seems to be this weird connotation because Ohio State is losing C.J. Stroud that they're going to be a young team. That's actually completely false. Outside of C.J. Stroud leaving, Ohio State is very veteran. Their defense, if Jim Knowles does not have Ohio State as a top 5 defense, he needs to be fired. You have like 7 5-stars who are sophomores or juniors at this point on that defense. They need to be a top 5 defense in college football. And you still have Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Mayan Williams, Trevion Henderson, as players. Although I will say, for Ohio State, there's a question surrounding the offensive line. They've had really poor recruiting. They got crushed in the portal. How do they fill the left tackle position? We'll have to see there. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Just a quick look ahead at some of the game lines. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.